the same. Nothing can be truer than this for the Taliban regime in Afghanistan. Remember when the Taliban captured power in Kabul in August 2021? There were those who had claimed, give them a chance. Taliban 2.0 may surprise you. It may turn out to be completely different from its original avatar. We may see a more modern, a reformed Taliban that respects women and treats the Afghan people kindly. Well, 2 years down the road, all those people have egg on their faces as the Taliban have proved them entirely, comprehensively and embarrassingly wrong. There is simply no end in sight to the Taliban's oppression of the Afghan people, in particular the unspeakable atrocities against and subjugation of the Afghan women. The list of tools of oppression employed in the last 2 years is so long we don't know where to begin. In their latest display of total aversion to all things associated with any civilized society, the Taliban regime has enforced a ban on music in Afghanistan. To drive home their point, the Taliban authorities recently created a bonfire of confiscated musical instruments in Afghanistan's Herat province, terming music immoral. They say promoting music causes moral corruption and playing it will cause the youth to go astray. Following the Taliban's return to power in 2021, many artists and musicians fled the country and sought asylum in Western nations. The Taliban consider music to be against the teachings of Islam. In the last 2 years, they've slowly established rules reflecting their austere interpretation of Islam, including a prohibition on public music performances. Saturday's bonfire saw hundreds of dollars worth of musical gear go up in smoke, much of it collected from wedding halls in the city. As for the Afghan women, the endless atrocities against them have resulted in each and every right of theirs being trampled on, and the women being systematically squeezed out of public life in that country. Now, Afghan women are not allowed to drive or even travel in taxis without a male companion. They must be covered in burqa while traveling in a four-wheeler. The Taliban have banned beauty salons across the country. Thousands of beauty salons across Afghanistan have been forced to close down permanently. A diktat that cuts off one of the few sources of income available to Afghan women while also robbing them of the last available cherished space for socializing. Remember, these salons were all run by women and were often the only source of livelihood for scores of Afghan households. Beauty salons had mushroomed all over Kabul and other Afghan cities in the 20 years when the United States-led NATO forces occupied the country. They were seen as a safe place to gather and socialize away from men and provided vital business opportunities for women. But ever since the Taliban recaptured power in August 2021, following the withdrawal of the NATO troops, life for the women of Afghanistan has been a living hell in every way conceivable, with every single right being snatched away from them. Thousands of women government workers have either lost their jobs or been told to stay at home with some sort of money being paid. The beauty salon ban will see another 60,000 women lose their income from work at some 12,000 salons, according to the Afghanistan Women Chamber of Commerce and Industry. A report submitted to the UN's Human Rights Council last month by Richard Bennett, the Special Rapporteur for Afghanistan, states that the plight of women and girls in the country was amongst the worst in the world. Taliban security forces in Kabul have been making the rounds to ensure that all salons are complying with the ban. The regime says the ban was necessary as extravagant sums of money were being spent by women on makeovers, causing hardships for poor families, and that some treatments at the salons were un-Islamic. This edict represents yet another grim milestone for the almost non-existent women's rights in Afghanistan. Since the Taliban seized power 2 years ago, the government has steadily rolled back women's rights, barring women and girls from most public spaces, banning girls and women from high schools and universities, essentially imposing a ban on their education, prohibiting them from working with local as well as foreign NGOs, banning them from parks, fun fairs, gyms, you name it, ordering them to cover up in public, even barring them from traveling any significant distance without a male relative. Women have been wholly excluded from public office and the judiciary. All over Afghanistan, women say they feel invisible, isolated and suffocated and are living in prison-like conditions. Many are unable to have their basic needs met without access to employment or aid, including access to medical assistance, healthcare and psychological support, in particular for victims of violence, including sexual violence. The UN Development Programme has estimated that restricting women's employment could cost up to 5% of Afghanistan's gross domestic product. Amnesty International has reported a drastic increase in the number of women arrested for violating discriminatory policies, such as rules requiring women to only appear in public with a male chaperone and to completely cover their bodies. The rates of child marriage have increased alarmingly. As per a report by the United States Institute of Peace, in many public elementary schools, the Taliban have been appointing women trained in the regime's approved madrasas as teachers and principals. The Taliban ordered them to enforce the regime's requirements for women and girls to wear all concealing clothes. In recent weeks, the Taliban's Virtue and Vice Ministry in some schools has instructed principals to examine the bodies of girls as young as 10 or 11 for signs of puberty and to expel them from school if they appear to be beginning to mature. Having taken Afghanistan virtually back to the Stone Age, the Taliban have proven beyond all doubt that they are simply incapable of operating within the framework of a modern governance system. All right, that's all the time we have on this Monday edition of Global Lens. Do join us again tomorrow at the same time. If you have been, thanks so much for watching. Good night.
China won't let us rest easy on our borders, but they will keep flooding our markets. What does Xi Jinping really want?
I think he wants the Indian market, no doubt about it.
It's really a matter of showing their dominance.
India's great Chinese conundrum.
Nobody